On a long enough timeline, the survival rate for every excuse drops to zero. The lights at the amateur bodybuilding show in Pittsburgh cut no deals. They don't grade on a curve. They don't give extra credit for peer-reviewed papers or Instagram followers. A 5'6" man who looks like he was sculpted by a toddler playing with mashed potatoes stands on stage, glistening under their merciless glare. At 5'6" and 225 pounds, holding enough water to solve California's drought problems, Mike Israetel has managed the impressive feat of resembling something vaguely like the human form, a Renaissance painting left out in the rain. His competition appearances have become the stuff of industry legend. Not the kind they write about in Flex magazine, but the kind whispered about in gym locker rooms, in between sets of perfectly periodized failures. The judges' faces remain professionally blank as he hits poses that make him look like he's trying to remember where he left his car keys, rather than display a physique worth looking at. The audience shifts uncomfortably in their chairs. In the back, someone coughs into their sleeve, trying not to laugh. Others check their phones. Anything to avoid this spectacular collision of academic theory and physical reality unfolding before them. The outcome's always the same. He's about to place last, again. And as surely as the sun rises, he has his explanations at the ready. He blames the incompetence of the tanning crew, the inadequate lighting, the unsympathetic alignment of the planets, Mercury in retrograde, the temerity of a judging panel that just doesn't understand his vision. Our academic champion looking softer than a marshmallow in a microwave, living proof that knowing and doing are separate kingdoms. Just another 5 weeks, he states. The same tired litany of alibis he's been perfecting for years, polished to a gleaming pseudo-intellectual shine. For here's a man who has built an empire not on results, but on the intricate post-mortems of their absence. He's transformed failure into a brand, made a lucrative career not from the possession of a great physique, but from the elaborate choreography of excuses for why he doesn't have one. In his office, amid the wreckage of crumpled protein bar wrappers, discarded tortilla boxes, and stacks of peer-reviewed research, this high priest of hypertrophy by hypothesis transforms incompetence into rhetorical spectacle. Another post about optimal training volume, another lecture about biomechanics, another video about the subtext of why progressive overload somehow only applies to his excuses. Thousands like it. No one mentions the body. An empire built on the premise that knowing equals being, that an algorithm can sculpt abs, that spreadsheets make striations, that hypertrophy is just a well-researched equation away from greatness. The comments section jerks off to his mechanistic understanding of hypertrophy, ignoring the fact that their guru looks like he's been mechanistically understanding his way through the entire inventory of his local Chick-fil-A. On the seminar circuit, he reigns supreme, this professor of porridge, the scholar of softness, the undisputed savant of hypertrophy. The crowd frantically scribbles notes. Nobody mentions the elephant in the room, which is that the elephant looks better than the lecturer. You have to understand the context, he says, unwrapping what appears to be his fourth protein bar of the hour. The bar disappears into another tortilla wrap, by now a well-practiced signature move. The judges weren't looking for my kind of physique. His followers don't seem to mind. They're not here for results. They're here for reasons. In a world of mediocrity where every failure demands an explanation, he offers something better than success. He offers understanding. Want to know why you're not growing? He's got a 3-hour video series on that. Can't lose fat? There's a seminar for that. Looking like a bag of milk on stage? He's got personal experience with that one. The genius of his approach isn't that he's wrong. It's that he's wrong in exactly the right ways. His failures are relatable. His struggles are marketable. His endless theorizing about why things aren't working resonates with an audience more interested in absolution for their failures rather than preventing them. He convinces his audience that his Build-A-Bear workshop physique, combined with his advanced cereal-based contest nutrition protocols, somehow makes him smarter than all the coaches on the planet. This is how cognitive dissonance reproduces. On the podcast circuit, he claims superiority over Mensa, sneers at Yates, scoffs at Platts. He laughs at their primitive, unsophisticated methods, assuring his disciples that if those men had only grasped the complexities of volume landmarks and stimulus to fatigue ratios, they could have reached even greater heights. All while looking like a bodybuilder constructed out of Play-Doh and optimism. The cognitive dissonance is so thick you could cut it with a knife. If he hadn't already created a 5-part video series on the optimal biomechanical angles for knife cutting and why you're doing it wrong. In his private gym, watch him scream through leg curls like he's birthing a dumbbell, yet coast through work sets that look easier than a kindergarten maths test. Each rep a masterclass in technique, each set perfectly periodized. The logbooks immaculate, the execution flawless, the results nowhere to be found. I want you to hit technical failure, he says, not actual failure. Technical failure is when you could do more but you stop because a spreadsheet tells you to. Technical failure is when you let a calculator dictate the weight you never lift, the set you never grind, the rep that never reaches the place where it hurts, where it tears, where it transforms. This is how the evidence-based cult justifies mediocrity. They create complex systems to explain simple failures. After a while, you start to see the pattern. The more someone knows, the less they have to show for it. The more letters after their name, the more excuses before their results. He's not just a failed bodybuilder with a PhD. He's a walking case study in what happens when academic knowledge collides with practical ineptitude at the speed of social media. He's created a new category of fitness professional, the educated idiot. Someone who knows everything about training except how to actually do it successfully. But somewhere between the PubMed citations and PayPal notifications, he's learned that being wrong pays more than being right, that failure scales faster than excellence. And so he persists, grinding out content, rationalizing his way through yet another prep, another failure, another meticulously documented defeat. Always another 5 weeks standing between him and a physique which never arrives. That's how you monetize contradiction. Every hate comment becomes another dollar, every call-out video another ad, every critique another commission check. The algorithm feeds on drama like a hungry child on contest prep cereal. He's transforming I'm bigger than you into my bank account is bigger than yours. Traditional marketing says show, don't tell. Modern marketing says tell why showing isn't necessary. His followers nod along. They buy the programs. They subscribe to the expensive apps. They're too busy writing down his words, searching for salvation in the spaces between theory and practice. And they will never change, because that's not even the point anymore. The transformation's not the product, the process is. The journey's infinite, the explanation's endless, the final result is irrelevant. Always another 5 weeks. And so we arrive at the ultimate tragedy. A sport that once belonged to the strongest has been now overrun by the loudest. A man who would have been laughed out of any respectable gym in 1985 is now a thought leader. A man who steps on stage looking like an uncooked loaf of sourdough is somehow regarded as an authority on muscle growth. This isn't a renaissance. This is a decay of reason. And somewhere in the dim corridors of YouTube and Instagram, Another disciple logs in, eager to learn the latest refinement in the art of never quite arriving. Because on a long enough timeline, the survival rate for excuses drops to zero. But the market for them? That's forever.